All right, welcome in everybody. Another crazy weekend of college football is behind us. Got another crazy one coming up next weekend. Had a ton of ranked teams go down. We want to get into all of it. We want to hear from you guys. Remember, if you donate, it's on topic in the comment section. It will get read, but most importantly, subscribe. We appreciate you being here. It's a road game for me, David. I know you were traveling this weekend as well.
Yep.
But I'm in an undisclosed hotel at an undisclosed location for my wife's mother's memorial this weekend. So we appreciate you guys joining us. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State, Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crane as well. What's up, fellas?
What's up, man? Yeah, I'm true road game today too here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, look,
you're
I'm
setting
staying
it way
strong in
better than
Nashville
mine.
right now. Staying strong in Nashville right now. Someone's got to rep the home squad. If that has to be me, I'll do it.
Yeah, somebody's got to guard the gates. I do this we do this each Sunday, and I like starting off by just a quick summation, even if it's a word or if it's a phrase about what happened this weekend. David, to describe kind of what you saw overall, 30,000 foot view. Give me something to work with here early.
Well, I'm going to go with refreshing today, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm sitting here late last night after we watched the Georgia-Tennessee game, after we see BYU go down, and I'm starting to get frustrated because I have no idea who the best team in college football is. Watch Oregon barely survive, and I'm sitting there thinking, I watch every game. I watch 95% of college football games. I have no idea who the best college football team is. Then I thought this morning, that's refreshing. How many times have we seen it where it's Alabama this year and everyone else, right? Or this year it's Georgia and everyone else. It's so refreshing to see this much parity across the country and across the different leagues. And I think we're going to be in for a heck of a postseason.
Well, and I hope this is the new norm. That's what we talk about all the time on the show. Is this going to be the anomaly year? I mean, is this going to be the one-off where we have all these teams that could possibly win it, and then we expand the playoff to like 16, and it reverts back to one dominant team and everybody else chasing them? But Cone, the way it's looking with NIL and the transfer portal, I think that's a perfect description. Blaine, what about you?
I would say mediocre. I don't think there's a great football team in college football, kind of go off what Cone says. I think everybody's just okay. And that's a good thing for college football. It's not something we're used to seeing. But, you watch these certain games with certain teams. In other words, you can use a schizophrenic. I don't know what we're going to get in and week out from certain teams, especially in the top 10. Is it good for college football? For sure. Is it good for betting? No, it is not.
Well, look, it makes it hard. That's what I was going to say. It makes it harder to bet. I mean, I'm sitting here yesterday watching all these games, and it's not just at the top either. I mean, La Tech beat Western Kentucky. We can go down the list. This is hitting everybody. It's like an epidemic, a pandemic, whatever. It's not just a high class situation or a middle class situation or a lower class situation. It's all across the board, man, which I think is fantastic. But guys, I want to get into the biggest game of yesterday, and it turned out to be a hell of a game. I know at the end there was really, no doubt when Georgia got up that second score. But just watching that Tennessee Georgia game, the way that Tennessee came out, it looked like Georgia was really who they've been. Right, offensively, they struggled to get it going. They take the shot deep early in the game, like they did against Bama, and just like against Bama, they didn't hit it. Tennessee, to me, for that first half, guys, I know it was tied, and I know Georgia scored 17 points in the second quarter, but I felt like Tennessee was the bully. I felt like Tennessee was the team that had the intimidation factor running it with Sampson. Nico looked comfortable. Carson looked uncomfortable, and Georgia really wasn't able to run the ball. But David, I mean, that script flipped really quick in the second half.
Yeah, and we talked all week about how Georgia this week would be Ole Miss from last week. Now you have two losses. Now you're at home. Now your back's against the wall. You're going to welcome in a one-loss SEC team with Tennessee coming to town. I'm glad that Nico not only played, but I'm glad that he went in and played well, and he looked good. He did some things that I thought were the best we've seen of him this season. So Georgia beat Tennessee when they were at their best. So that I think the committee needs to take that into account. But really, here's what I took away from the game. Georgia won at the line of scrimmage, 5 sacks on your opponent while you gave up 0, right? 0 turnovers. Your quarterback looked like the guy we thought preseason who could win the Heisman Trophy, right? Oscar Delp coming out of nowhere, really giving a good game. Wide receivers getting separation, catching great balls, but most importantly, Carson Beck playing well, playing efficiency, being in command of the football game, and then you shut your opponent out in the second half. Right? No turnovers, 5 sacks, shut your opponent out. That's a great recipe to beat anyone in the country.
Blaine, when you look at this Georgia team, obviously we're going to have the new playoff rankings that come out on Tuesday. David brought up Carson Beck. And really what got Carson Beck going was when Georgia started going fast and caught
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee on
Yeah.
a free play for jumping off sides. That kind of was the catalyst to settle him down. And then it was just cruising for that. He finished 25 of 40, 347 yards, 2 touchdowns. Blaine, I even thought Carson ran the ball well.
Yep.
But where
Yeah.
has this Carson Beck been? And is this Carson Beck here to stay? Because if this Carson Beck is here to stay, Georgia can win the national championship.
Well, this is a Carson Beck we expected to see this entire year. We talked about this Georgia team, a little bit different of a Georgia team. They're more pass to run, especially with ETN being out. But let's not get confused why Georgia won this football game. Where do you win football games in the SEC, especially big ones? You win it up front, right? And what we saw with Georgia against last week, giving up 6 sacks against Ole Miss, Carson Beck could have sat there and suntanned the entire game the way his offensive line played. It was absolutely gorgeous. And finally, we see some, even with, you got Bell went out. Right, Bell went out early with an ankle, and you lose another piece, but you have other guys step up in big moments. And look, Kirby Smart, I'll tell you what, those dogs bite when you back them up against the wall. And that crowd, guys, you got to give that crowd a lot of credit for what they did, especially in key downs. I think Tennessee jumped off sides multiple times, but if you flip it to the other side, Nico, you got to remember this about Nico. Obviously, he's a true freshman. All right, so he's obviously going to get better at these opportunities in these moments. But, the lack of explosive plays from Tennessee's offense is really what killed them. And when Carson Beck, when Georgia got going is when Carson Beck broke 4 tackles in the backfield and scrambled for a first down. And then that confidence started to build. And then you had that momentum with the crowd. And Georgia outscored Texas. Tennessee in the first quarter, 31-7. 31 for 7 for the rest of the game. I thought Tennessee did a bad job on defense adjusting. They sat and manned the entire game and got absolutely picked apart.
Well, and David, I want to get to the officiating because I do think the officiating was a big part of this game, and I don't want to just lean on it fully. But we talk about Georgia and their lack of having playmakers that we've seen offensively. I just want to throw this number at you. Georgia had 5 guys yesterday, 5 pass catchers that had at least 3 catches and over 50 yards. London Humphreys had 3 catches for 63. Lovett had 3 catches for 59. Delp had 4 for 56 and 2 touchdowns. Ben Urachek, the Stanford tight end transfer, had 5 catches for 51 yards, and Arian Smith out of the backfield had 3 for 50. So he was really spraying the ball around, like we saw in the second half against that in that Alabama game. But one thing I did notice, they were going after Tennessee in the seam. That's where they wanted to hit Tennessee and hurt Tennessee. They went there multiple times. You had a couple that got deflected that didn't get there. But when you see the tight ends make this many catches, that means they feel good about the middle of the field, Dave.
Yeah, well, a few things there. When you're talking about the wide receivers and the tight ends, look, Georgia's littered with talent in that locker room. So it's not surprising to see the guys play like we did yesterday. What's been surprising is for them not to have played like that earlier in the season. And I think this is a mark of championship teams. They get better from week to week. This is what Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and those type of guys do. You're going to start to see them come along, especially now that they have 2 losses and there's a lot less margin for error. As far as Carson Beck throwing seam routes, over the middle is where he throws the best balls. He throws the best dig ball I've ever seen. He throws great post routes. He was killing them on the seams yesterday. So to see him struggle at times earlier in the season when he's not able to throw his fastball every time is what has surprised me. But I'm glad you mentioned his legs because it wasn't only with his arms. He was very effective on the ground with his legs and not just, and he was putting his shoulder down. He was running fearlessly. The hard counts to get Tennessee to jump offside so that they could get those free plays. He had complete command of the game. I do want to say one more thing about Kirby Smart's comments because he's taken a couple opportunities now to sort of throw some jabs at the playoff committee. I think that's the wrong time to do that. I find some of those comments a bit pathetic, and you guys know how much respect I have for Kirby Smart. I think he's the best college football coach in the game right now. But there is a metric when he talks about the committee has no criteria right now. He's not exactly wrong when it comes to these at-large spots, from 5 through 12, but there is a criteria of you winning your conference. Right now, if I were Kirby Smart and I had Georgia, I'd be focused on playing football games like they just played yesterday, because if you win your conference, not only are you going to make the college football playoff, but if you play like that, you're going to win the national championship.
Yeah, and David, I agree with you, especially coming off a win. Like if Georgia would have lost this game and this was their 3rd loss and they were probably out, what did they say if in court? If you have the facts, pound the facts.
Yeah.
If you have the law, pound the law. If you don't have either, just pound the
Pound the
table.
table.
That's
Yeah.
when you get out there with 3 losses and start saying the committee needs. Saban used to do it all the time when it seemed like Bama, they lost a big game or something. It's politicking and it's smart. But now that you won, not saying you need to kiss everybody's ass, but I think I'm going to go about it in a way that maybe it's like, hey, now the committee may see what we've done, and hopefully they reward us after we were dropped to 12th. When you look at who we've beaten and the games that we've played, and I mean, guys, for Georgia, I know there's 2 games left, Blaine. I want to get to officiating. You're 8-2, you're 6-2 right now, and you got to feel fantastic if you're Georgia about your prospects to get in the playoff. But if you're a Tennessee fan, or you're a Georgia fan, or you're an A&M fan, or anything, and we're going to get to this game in a little bit, something beautiful happened for you. BYU lost.
Yeah.
I think yesterday may have solidified that the Big 12 is going to get one team and one team only in the college football playoff, which even with Notre Dame allows the SEC to get 3 extra teams outside of the conference championship winner and the Big 10 as well. So if you're Georgia now having that tiebreaker, having the tiebreaker over Texas, you got to feel really, really good if you can end up 10-2. Blaine, I want to talk to you about the officiating for a second.
Okay, quick.
I do want to say I
hey,
didn't think Georgia was handed that game.
for sure.
I don't want people to think that I'm sitting here making excuses, or because Georgia did dominate it. You brought it up, Blaine, that from the second quarter on they won 31-7, right?
Yeah.
But I thought the officiating yesterday was very slanted toward Georgia. I thought Georgia got away with a couple false starts that they didn't call, including Carson Beck, including looking at the right tackle from Georgia. I thought jumped a couple times, but the face mask call, what was ridiculous to me. It just seemed that every call that was big or had that was consequential went against Tennessee, even when there were times, Blaine, where I think you either make no call or eventually it's got to even out at some point.
Yeah, I will say this. I don't think the refs are the reason Georgia won.
I don't either, but
Georgia,
I can still point out bad officiating.
Yeah, for sure. I think refs are terrible at their jobs. Most refs are really bad, and we've talked about this. They need to be full on-time employees. I'm not going to run down this rabbit hole, but Georgia just beat y'all up for 4 quarters. All right, and you can go look at Georgia's drives. It wasn't 30-yard drives. It wasn't 40-yard drives. It was 70-plus yard drives. I believe one was a 92-yard drive. Georgia just played better football than y'all. All right, the reason. Right, it wasn't the refs' fault that y'all couldn't sack Carson Beck. Y'all just got outplayed for 4 quarters. Georgia looked like a better football team for y'all in 4 quarters, and that happens. Look, sometimes you start off fast. That's what Tennessee does. But what is Kirby Smart known for? And it doesn't have to be halftime for you to get the right adjustments in there. Kirby Smart saw what Tennessee wanted to do. He made adjustments throughout the game. Carson Beck was him. I think the face mask penalty was terrible. I thought it was terrible, and it was a pivotal moment in that game. But that is not the reason Tennessee lost this game, and that's not the reason Georgia won this game. Georgia just beat y'all for 4 quarters at what Georgia does. You're on the road. Sometimes it happens like that, and you can't let it get in the way. And Tennessee, you didn't play good enough to win this game. You didn't. I think Tennessee fans know that as well. Would I be surprised if Tennessee makes it in the playoff? No. I mean, we can look at the odds right now, but you had your shots, you had your chances, and you didn't capitalize, and Georgia capitalize, and that's what a good team does. That gets better throughout the week in, week out.
Yeah, well, I mean, well, David, if you're a Tennessee fan waking up saying, I'm gonna get to the chat. Remember, if you donate, it's on topic, it will get read. By no means is your season over.
No.
By no means is this thing cooked at all. I still think Tennessee at 10-2 right now, with the way I'm looking at it, I'm gonna go do and redo the math again. I was keeping my eye on the Big 12. I think Tennessee stands as good of a chance as anybody at 10-2 to get in that playoff.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, you still have to go play on the road at Vanderbilt, and you can laugh at that in years past, but you can't this year, especially when Vanderbilt has a head-to-head win over one of the teams that you're going up against in Alabama. Yes. I looked at this thing for about 30 or 40 minutes this morning, and that is how to rank order 2 through 6, basically, in the SEC. Well, really, let's say Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss. There's no way to rank order that correctly right now because everyone has a head-to-head victory over someone. So either you're going to rank order based on the quality of opponent you lost to. That's what Georgia's hoping with road losses to Alabama and to Ole Miss, even though the Ole Miss one kind of got out of the way. Or you're Ole Miss and saying, yeah, we lost to some inferior competition because the loss to Kentucky and the loss to LSU looks worse and worse as the season goes on. But those teams are at least out of the tiebreaker, and maybe you're hoping to get a head-to-head. There's no right way to do it. Right now on the SEC's website, the order is Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, and Ole Miss. And keep in mind, that's with Texas A&M still being above them because that second loss is to Notre Dame out of conference, and that one's looking better and better. And obviously Texas right now with the win over Arkansas is at the top, and those two teams will play each other. There's no way around that right now, but hey, we just saw Missouri pick up a third loss, right? Saw LSU go ahead and get out of there, so LSU can't win the SEC in the way that Matt Moscona was breaking it down this past week. Yeah. Again, we still have a few weeks left. Let's just let this thing play out, and we'll do the absolute best we can to rank order it the best we can. And like you said, BYU picking up another loss and some more chaos around the country is sort of helping solidify that picture.
Well, you mentioned that, and I'm going to get to the chat, Blaine, but you mentioned Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Ole Miss, right? All sitting there with those two losses. But if Texas A&M, the winner of the Texas A&M Texas game, if Texas gets two losses, is that where them not having a heavy SEC schedule, where they only got that one shot in a big game against a Georgia team, and now they lose that tiebreaker to Georgia? How does that affect them? Again, it goes back to the question, David, we asked, the trim and the fat. Does that happen like if Texas doesn't have a tiebreaker, the head-to-head they lose against Georgia and they didn't play anybody else, are they now, even though they have two losses, below everybody that played everybody, like Georgia and Bama and Tennessee and Bama and Tennessee and Georgia and Ole Miss and Georgia? Like, I don't know.
It's always better to lose early than it is to lose late. We see that every single season, right? So the loss to Georgia, and now that, after the performance against Tennessee, and assuming that Georgia wins out here, that loss is going to look better and better, even though it was at home, even though you did get doubled up. But it's not going to be a good look if you go on the road and you lose in College Station, especially if you lose by 10 points, because that's going to be what's the searing moment in the committee's mind before Selection Sunday.
Definitely. All right, let's get to the chat, Blaine.
All right, Chad, hit that like, hit that subscribe button on this beautiful Sunday. If you donate, it's on topic. I will read it. Let's go to Steve to the O. What's up, man? It says UGA finally caught some passes. We still lead the nation in drops, but they set off fireworks every time we caught a pass and actually had guys showed up when they're supposed to.
You made the plays that we were expecting, like Dominic Lovett, right, and Oscar Delp and these guys to make. Now, was it perfect? No, but if you're Georgia, again, it's not if you get hot, it's when you get hot. So how much confidence is this game going to give you against the Tennessee defense, guys? We talked about it all week. Could be number one in the country. You can make an argument this is the number one defense in the country. You found a little bit, I think, in the running game in the second half as well. It's not all about passing. Georgia's got to find some balance. They've got to be versatile. So how much confidence is Georgia going to take from this going forward, whether that's ends up in Atlanta in the SEC championship game or possibly hosting or just playing in a first-round playoff game?
Let's go to Bleeding Orange. He says, fellas, what happened after the first quarter? It seemed like Josh Heupel did not make any adjustments in this football game.
David, and I know you guys watched the same thing. What it looked like to me was defensively, because that's what I think it was for Tennessee. I know you didn't score a ton of points, on offense, but we've seen Tennessee kind of be that team, right? Ground game. I still think Nico did some good things. I think defensively, Tim Banks said for most of that game, we're going to put our corners on an island. All right, and we're gonna try and stop everything in the middle, and they still struggle to stop stuff in the middle. So as far as adjustment wise, I don't think Tim Banks called a bad game. I don't think Tim, because he pressured. It got to the point in the second half where Tim was pressuring at least once every 3 downs to try and get to Carson Beck. But you got to tip your hat to Carson Beck. He was spitting the hot. He was throwing into the blitz. And the tight ends are safety blankets. That's why I think you saw, and David, you know this better than anybody, whenever there's pressure, all right, just like if you get trapped in basketball, you really want to kick that thing down low because you got a one-on-one and you feel good about your guy getting in and making a play. So as far as schematically, could Tennessee have run some more zone coverage that would have helped against the run? Possibly, but offensively, I think Tennessee did what Tennessee does. They just struggled to hit the big play down the field. It was actually Georgia who was able to not only hit the pretty decent chunk play down the field through the air, but they were also able to break tackles after they made catches across the middle. You saw Lovett do it a couple times. You saw Yurchek do it a couple times. Nitro Tuggle, I thought, made a couple good plays and has the most badass name I've ever heard in my life. But schematically, I don't think it was an awful performance from Tennessee. I think Georgia was just better from a personnel standpoint on that night.
That's kind of what I saw too. I wasn't putting this loss on lack of scheme. I mean, they were getting blown off the football. Georgia was blowing you off the football, even on that final touchdown there at the goal line when I was pulling against it because I had the under in the game. Georgia's blowing you off the ball, and then from a defensive performance for Tennessee, you got 0 sacks on Carson Beck, which hurt your ability to do what? To turn him over, which we had been seeing. Tennessee was begging for a turnover or two from the Carson Beck that we have seen in weeks prior. So all of that really hurt him. And then you throw in 9 penalties on top of that. I know you're on the road. I know you're playing at Georgia. I know it's really loud, but like 9 penalties, and they were in opportune times for Georgia, right? The offsides that you're getting to create free plays allows a confident quarterback to throw the football downfield.
And I cannot sit here and not say, because this guy gets so much hell. So much hell. Mike Bobo called
thank you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Timely calls, perfect calls. The screen game. I thought the screen game was beautiful, catching Tennessee in multiple times, bringing all out blitz, that linebacker creep up. So I don't want to hear any Mike Bobo hate in this chat because absolutely that dude dialed it up.
Thank you for saying that. I was thinking that last night too.
Let's go to C. Hutch.
I think I even put something out on social media. It's amazing how the Mike Bobo doesn't know any football. People were mighty quiet yesterday.
Yeah, I know. Let's go to C. Hutch. This ought to piss people off. Says Georgia finds a way to lose, then finds a way to win, and y'all are already ready to crown them as champions.
What?
Yeah. Who's y'all?
Yeah, like what? Well,
that's the thing about college.
Wait, hold on. We literally just opened the show talking about how there's more parity in college football. See, here's my thing, and I don't even think I don't know if you're just trying to troll, but if you're trying to troll, at least have a semblance of enough brain cells to put together something that would challenge us to answer back. Listen, I don't know if you're a Tennessee fan, you're upset about the game last night or whatever, but if you're gonna troll, damn it, take some pride in it, right? If you're gonna troll and try and get upset, don't sound like the dumbest one in the room. Do at least put a little bit of effort into it. At no point did anybody in here say they think Georgia is going to win the national championship. What we said, or what I said, was if that's the Carson Beck you get, and that second half defense, just like against Texas, is the one you get, Georgia can win a national championship, even without being as elite as they have been in the past. So, look, it's just like, if you're going to rob a gas station, at least have a plan. If you're going to come in here and troll, at least don't sound like a dumbass. That's all I'm asking.
Well, who wouldn't be impressed with a win over the number 7 team in the country by a score of 31-17 when that opponent hadn't even given up 20 points all season? Any fan base in the country would be impressed by that. And there's a couple performances that stick out in my mind across the country that I think, that's a team that could win the national championship. Alabama in a couple of the games they've played, including the first half against Georgia. Yesterday, that's a team that could win a national championship. Oregon at times. I mean, there are some teams that have been able to do it for a half or for one game. I haven't seen one team throughout the whole season look perfect, though.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to move on here. Let's look, Texas, Arkansas. I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but let's get to this Florida LSU game. Here's LSU fans should be furious. You should be furious. But to me, this is why you should be even more upset this weekend than you were last weekend when Alabama beat the doors off of you. Last weekend, it was just personnel. Bama's personnel was just way better than yours. There wasn't a lot of plays that Blake Baker could have called on defensively, blitzes, stunts, all this stuff that could have saved you. Bama lined up. They beat you at birth last week, which is super concerning if you're LSU concerned the way you recruit. But this weekend, giving up 8 sacks, getting blown off the ball as an offensive line where you have NFL players. Not that Florida's bad at all in the front seven on defense. Okay. They've got some NFL guys. We talked about it before the season. But LSU's strongest unit, really on offense, should be the offensive line. And when you get the way that game went, after you gave up the first sack, it's like it waterfalled on you. This wasn't a personnel issue. This was a mental toughness issue to me. You know, we heard this offensive line. I heard Will Campbell talking about going out to play USC. We're not going to Caesars to gamble. We're going to whip somebody's ass. And then you get your ass whooped. And then I look up later in the year, and I am watching Shamar and everybody in the front seven of Florida just big dog. You can say what you want about Nuss, and he made a couple mistakes, but good Lord, the man had no time to operate. Hell, one of his best throws was when he was getting hit under pressure in the seam across the middle to Aaron Anderson, who should get way more targets than what he does. And you got to give credit to Florida, Billy Napier. It's a nice win for them. Get a vote of confidence, get a big win. You're going to see what it does in recruiting here soon. But Blaine, I'm going to start with you. I mean, LSU to me, under Brian Kelly, this team is just mentally soft. And once it goes bad, it goes really, really bad. I was just shocked that it was, you know, if the defense got ran all over and they lost like they did against Bama and you know, Montrell and Jacoby and Jaden, all these guys just ran all through them. All right, I can see that happening, a high-scoring game and a loss. But that's not what happened. Your elite offensive line, at least in pass protection, got absolutely shoved in a locker in front of God and everybody last night.
Yeah, and I think we could sit here and say I think LSU right now is a fraudulent football team. I really do. I think you got beat up by Bama last week. Florida looked a lot better than you. And I thought there's a couple things that I want to point out. One, how Cameron Lacey only has 2 targets going into halftime. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
He couldn't believe it either.
The dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. I don't even know how that happens from a play calling standpoint. It's not like he was out there getting doubled. Now, then you see the Brian Kelly interaction with Chris Hilton Jr. on the sidelines. You know, it's just right now at LSU, it seems toxic. It seems like a toxic environment. Okay. And I don't think the LSU's defense played good at all. And one point I want to make, and I tweeted this, LSU had the ball for 41 minutes. 41 minutes to Florida's 18, and you still find a way to lose this game.
That's incredible, dude.
I don't want to hear the excuses. Okay. I'm done hearing the excuses. All right. Red zone. That's where your money is earned as a play caller. Sloan had a terrible day. Terrible day. If you have the players to get you down there, you have the players to get you in the end zone. And the biggest thing to me that I'm worried about, as my voice cracks, is LSU used to be about something on defense, right? I remember I used to be deathly terrified to go play LSU no matter where it was because of the creatures they have running around on defense, especially the defensive line. As a program, LSU defensively, it's gone. It's gone. It seems soft to me. There's no edge. There's no guys out there who feel like they're trying to go get it. And who can you point at for that? That's Brian Kelly. There's a problem. All right. There is a problem in my eyes. And the LSU, I don't know if it's the locker room, the relationships, but there's a disconnect somewhere. And you're seeing that start to boil over on the sidelines. And that's panic button mode. To me, that's panic button mode. Brian Kelly better figure something out. And he better figure something out quick because I know a fan base that won't wait. This isn't Florida. All right, these guys will not wait for you to figure it out. Okay, so either you figure it out or, buddy, you're going to be on the first bus out of here.
So David, I look at the contract that Brian Kelly has. I mean, it would have to go like incredibly south for them to fire him. But to Blaine's point, you know, say what you want about like Florida and Billy Napier, but is this LSU? Is it just a bunch of fake love down there? I mean, is it just fake? Because part of Brian Kelly, and listen, I think Brian Kelly can win at LSU. If Les Miles and Ed Orgeron can win a national championship at LSU, I think Brian Kelly can. But the difference in Les Miles and Ed Orgeron, you can make fun of them all you want. You can say that, you know, one of them eats grass and the other one smokes it. But you know where I think they were a little bit different than Brian Kelly, and maybe this is what we've been missing. They were genuinely themselves. There was nothing fake about who Ed Orgeron was. There was nothing fake about who Les Miles was. They were who they were, and they were going to be who they are. Is Brian Kelly, is there a fakeness that may be hurting LSU right now, and that you know, team camaraderie that allowed them to win those national championships?
Yeah, I don't know about fakeness, but there certainly are plenty of problems to go around down there. And I agree with Blaine when he says you're going to have to get this figured out quickly. No, I don't think they're going to fire him this year. And you've alluded to the contract, and everybody can see the contract buyout that's going around on social media. But still, this is a fan base that has zero patience. And some of it, to me, the product they're putting out on the field is absolutely unacceptable. I don't know if Brian Kelly thought that he could just walk into Baton Rouge and that school recruits itself. And Ed Orgeron won a national championship here. So obviously I can do so easily. But if that's the mindset, you're dead wrong. And you're dead wrong for exactly the reasons that we saw yesterday. It's not just the Alabamas and the Georgias that can give it to you. It's the teams in the middle and even the bottom of this conference that are going to come up and they're going to punch above their weight and they're going to beat teams that they are quote unquote not supposed to. So I think everything we saw yesterday is about Florida. And shout out to Billy Napier and DJ Lagway and everybody down there in Gainesville for that performance, because you absolutely got after the other team. You got after that quarterback, sacked him more in one game that he had been sacked in the entire season. And then LSU didn't offset that with any pressure of their own against a true freshman quarterback. And one thing on DJ Lagway, I'm just telling you, I love watching the kid play, man.
Nice.
He has all the tools to be great. He knows how to get the football out of his hands quick, and he has a quick release. Those two things are reasons you couldn't get pressure on him. So big congratulations to Billy Napier. That's a huge win. I just wonder, is that something that is replicatable week to week?
I think we lost David there. There we go.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah,
I think every Florida fan is wondering, okay, is that the ceiling, right? Like, is that replicatable week to week to week? And are we looking at a glimpse of the future? Or is this just a one-off where, we can beat a top team every once in a while, but still have 6-6 seasons? That's the question for Billy Napier.
Well, if I'm Billy Napier, I am sending the DJ Lagway highlights of this game to every single offensive recruit that we have in this class, whether he's committed or not. In the transfer portal, I can go and you look at what Badger did, a guy who came in, I believe from Arizona State, and absolutely balled yesterday. I am sending that. And now that Billy Napier's got the vote of confidence, DJ Lagway looks like he is the future. Scott Strickland, woo, that coffee probably tasted a little bit better this morning than it has in a while. But I want to get to the chat and then we got to move. But I want to get to this point. All credit to Florida, right? We can bash LSU, all credit to Florida. But that may have been the best thing that could have happened for Ole Miss. Because now Ole Miss has got to go down to Florida and play them next. So if there was any Ole Miss player that was like, oh, well, it's Florida, they suck. Nope. That's not going to work after what they did to LSU. And then obviously Florida gets to play at Florida State, which is going to be a lot of fun for them to give them some more momentum there on the way out.
And I will say, I just double-checked my preseason predictions. I had Florida beating LSU in the Swamp. Not that means I've gotten plenty of other ones wrong, but I did have that check mark there.
We celebrate the wins here, Cone. We celebrate the wins here.
Look, I know I've been critical of Billy Napier, and every right I have that I should. All right. And it's not like I don't like Billy Napier. I'm sick of people tagging me on Twitter saying that I don't like Billy Napier. That's not it. Okay. Only thing I've gone off of is kind of what we talk about on this show. Well, when does coaching really kick in? All right. When can you really base a guy, right? Year 3. All right. And right now, I mean, you're 5-5. If you're Florida, it's a great win, but you fired a guy, okay, who was 15 games above 500 in year 3, and you're looking at a guy right now who's 15-18. Okay. And it's a good win. But if I'm a Florida fan, I'm almost scared. I'm almost afraid that this win will make everybody just come out and be like, oh, Billy's our guy. But this is the same team that's so inconsistent from week to week. Same team that lost to Arkansas. Okay. So it might be a great win. I just want you to know the proof's in the pudding, guys. And the quarterback hasn't been the problem at Florida. Okay. You had Anthony Richardson. You had Graham Mertz, okay? DJ Lagway is going to be a good player. I'm just saying it's a good win, but this still doesn't mean Billy Napier's your guy, okay?
I just think it's because you don't like Billy Napier.
No, I just think I look at stats. I look at proof. I look at what's tangible, what I can see.
With you, dude.
It's just crazy.
I'm just messing with you.
I know. It's just crazy to me that Billy Napier gets all this love. And look, I know his teams play hard. Okay, great. You're supposed to play hard anyway, buddy. You're getting paid. Okay. But at the end of the day, the guy is still 15-18 in year 3 at Florida, and you're 5-5.
Well, I mean, look, we'll see next year. I think it's about proofs in the pudding. He's got to do it next year.
So year 4 is now. Year 4 is now the measuring stick for
got to be.
Okay, so
Like Scott
Billy
Strickland said,
Napier has pushed.
it always was.
Well, it depends on how year 4 goes. It may be year 5, Blaine.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Look,
All right,
don't let him go. Don't let him go 7-5.
Yeah, I
Can you
know.
imagine TJ Lifeway as a junior?
Yeah, they'll sign him for 6 more years. All right, let's go to
All right.
Deltona. Doug, what's up, man? He says play calling has zero creativity. We're talking about the LSU Florida game here. Daniel's covered up a lot of problems with Kelly. That guy is so unlikable. I'd rather have Coach O and win 6 games a year. Woodward back again with another garbage hire.
Well, look, I've been as critical of Joe Sloan. I was as critical of Joe Sloan after the USC game starting off the year than I have probably been with any other offensive coordinator in the country. But I do want to tell you this, and I don't think he was great yesterday. You talk about not targeting Lacey, but again, play may have been called and it may have been changed by Nuss. I'm not there. But when you are getting your ass beat so bad on the offensive line like that, there are not a lot of plays that work outside of screens, because you basically just hold up for a second and then get out and block. I don't know how much Joe Sloan could have done after that. I mean, I think a lot of it's on Brad Davis, man. If we're going to be honest, all we talked about and all we heard about from LSU and inside camp and from insiders we trust was this could be the best offensive line LSU's had in God knows how long. I mean, look at all these NFL guys. Well, first off, you're not able to run the ball consistently. That's a problem when you're trying to be one of the best offensive lines out there. And now you're giving up more sacks than a potato farm in Idaho. So, like, if you're Brad Davis, and I don't know how it gets better than Will Campbell at left tackle. I don't know how it's going to get better than Emery, who I know is an NFL guard, but should be fine. You look at the experience in the middle. I know they've been banged up at times, but I think that's a name that should really be under some criticism right now.
I was going to $10 donation from David. Appreciate it, David. He says, Gators, my gosh, does it feel so good to get a win against those voodoo demon worshipers in Baton Rouge. There's not a bigger group of more ignorant and more hypocritical fans than LSU. What a bunch of bums.
I'm sure you had a lot of fun typing that. I'm sure that was well worth the $10. I'm sure, David. We appreciate it.
Can you go back to back, though? Can you beat Ole Miss now? That's the question.
Dude, you want to talk about being on the hit list?
Let that happen.
Twice to LSU and Ole Miss.
Let's go to Silvertooth right here. I like this comment. Brian Kelly is one heck of a coach, but he doesn't match up with the culture of the South. Kids smell right through him, and you can see it every day.
Well, it's just like
that's tough.
God, our stepdad.
Here's my thing. I don't think it's as much as you don't match the culture of the South, is that you're trying to match the culture of the South. Like, you just be yourself. Like, Nick Saban didn't come down here and he was like, well, boys, guess we're going to have to go down in there and play some football games again. That's not how that happened. Nick Saban came down and guess what? He was just like a Nick Saban if you beat him in Chicago. He was just like the Nick Saban you'd meet him if he was in LA. He wasn't doing fake accents at football games. I'll give you honest, it's like Kamala Harris. You're not authentic. You can smell right through somebody that is not truly being themselves. And you know what? It doesn't matter if you're from Georgia or if you're from Georgetown, right? It doesn't matter if you're from Washington, the state of Washington, or Washington County in Alabama. If you're yourself, you can recruit any player. Don't matter if you're white, you're black, whatever. That's a common misconception. I think Brian Kelly is trying to be something that he's not, instead of just being himself, at least from the outside in. That's the way it looks to me.
And if you're going to be a CEO head coach, the way that Brian Kelly is, and you're going to delegate down scheme, for instance, you're not a play caller the way Lane Kiffin is or Steve Sarkisian is, then basically anything that happens from a culture standpoint or a game management standpoint, that's on you, because you can't offset that by saying, well, I'm still the one scheming up the offense every week, so I either take all the blame when we're bad or I take all the credit when we're good. No, you're the CEO head coach, so the culture is 100% your responsibility, and it has to be flawless if you're that type of coach.
100%. All right, I'm going to move on here. We're going to get back to the chat as well. Guys, I want to stay in the SEC, and then we're going to move out of the SEC. You can see the pattern here. Texas, Arkansas, this is a game I liked Arkansas in, and it got scary there in the second half for Texas after Arkansas got down 13-7 and got the ball back. But you got to give credit to Texas's defense. I think offensively, Quinn did some good things, but Texas just, didn't, and I thought T. Will called a really good game early. I thought the defense for Arkansas kept them in it about as long as they possibly could. They were on the field the whole first half. But I tell you, I was very disappointed with the offensive attitude from Arkansas, getting 2 weeks off coming into this game. Hell, the first quarter and a half, guys, it looked like they were going in slow motion. It looked like some of the guys didn't even want to be there. And Taylon Green has got to, and this is something we talked about early in the year. Texas was daring him to escape up through the pocket, through the inside, through the B gap and the C gap. And he has this awful habit. It's this high school habit, I call it, of trying to outrun everybody around the line of scrimmage instead of stepping up and taking off. And Texas knew that, but it was a solid win for Texas. If you're Arkansas and Sam Pittman, though, like how do you feel right now? Arkansas fans in the chat, like where are you at right now with Sam Pittman in this program? Like you get some good, you get some bad, but it seems like you got a couple things good early, and it's just been bad since. I mean, David, where do you put this Arkansas program at 5-5 and 3-4 in the SEC once again under Sam Pittman?
Yeah, sort of been weird with, we've seen him put over 600 yards of total offense up several times this season. And then other performances, they have these low scoring games. I thought this game could go one of three ways. And we had talked about it multiple times this week. Either one, it's a shootout from both teams scoring a bunch of points. Two, maybe Texas dominates. They score a bunch of points and Arkansas doesn't. Or three, it's this sort of back and forth lower scoring affair, the way we saw Arkansas play Auburn and play Tennessee. I went with the latter of that bunch, and that's why I took the under in the game, and that's pretty much what we got. Early on to me in the first half, Jake, Taylon Green had no command of this game, not only through the air, but he wasn't pulling it on zone read when he was supposed to. He was inaccurate with the football. And then I think a switch flipped at halftime. They come out and have a great drive to start the third, I believe. But, Texas, no turnovers. That's a big way to start, right? And you've beaten an Arkansas team that has some very nice wins in the conference, so that helps look good from a strength of schedule standpoint from Texas. You went in there, you handled your business on the road. Look, it's a solid win, and I don't think you can knock Texas for it.
No, I don't either, Blaine. I think if you'd have told Steve Sarkisian, hey, you're going to go in there, you're going to win 20-10, you're not going to turn the ball over, you're going to win the special teams battle, he would have taken that in spades. I mean, because again, at this point, guys, and look, we've talked about style points obviously matter in some of these formulas, and when you look at the committee and the eye test, but when it's all jumbled up like this, I mean, it's like Oregon yesterday. Just win the game. At this point, just win the game.
A couple things here. One, I think the Sam Pittman era in Arkansas is over. I think it's time for Sam Pittman to retire, let the next guy come in. They need something new at Arkansas. The other thing, when we talk about Texas offense gets all the love. Sark gets all the love. Their defense doesn't get talked about enough. Right now, number one in the nation in turning people over. They're a bend but don't break defense. And, they know how to win football games, and they definitely don't know how to lose them. And that's a big thing coming in late into the playoffs, especially if you're about to walk into a really good Texas A&M team. Travis Williams was in his bag for 4 quarters.
Again.
T. Will was in his bag for 4 quarters, and all I heard all week was Bobby Petrino off a bye week. Bobby Petrino got owned. Look, at the end of the day, you can say what you want about Taylon Green. Taylon Green didn't play good. That's why I didn't pick Arkansas in this game, because I don't believe in Taylon Green yet. He hasn't developed enough for me as a quarterback. But the Texas team right now, all right, and I know their one big loss was against Georgia, and that's the one team they played. If the offense can play that bad, which I think they play bad, there's every opportunity for Texas to run up the score in this football game. Texas, I think, is as good as anybody. I really do. If that defense can show up with the weapons they have on offense, they can match up with anybody on the field for 4 quarters. And I don't think their defense gets talked about enough because of all the high flying, all the pretty colors they have on offense. Texas is a damn balanced football team, and balance does you what? Keeps you on the beam. So I think it's a big win to Texas, and I'll reiterate this. I just think the Sam Pittman era in Arkansas is over.
Well, I mean, we talked about this is the you've already been invited to Hollywood. Now you got to audition against other people that can sing for Travis Williams and maybe some of these head coaching job openings. He definitely came through. If there was any, I know they gave up 63 to Ole Miss. If there were any questions about, was that just a fluke with what T. Will did against Tennessee? Man, I thought he was absolutely in his bag. And when you're having to try and go toe to toe with Sark, like not only are you having to manufacture pressure, you're like, all right, y'all's offensive line, which LSU may have the best tackle in the country when it comes down to when you look at the Banks kid. But when you're having to sit here and say, all right, I've got to take risks, yet I've also got to match wits with Steve Sarkisian, that is the Russian roulette of defensive coordinating when it comes to football. Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say Arkansas holding Texas to 20 points does make Ole Miss look better. So I think Ole Miss was a winner from this outcome yesterday. And Tennessee, Tennessee lost to Georgia, but they also lost in this one just from an eye test standpoint, because that Arkansas team that beat you when they were at home now picks up another loss. So Ole Miss, another little bump, Tennessee, another little hit.
Agreed. All right, guys. So I want to get out of the SEC, but first, South Carolina. We got to give them their flowers. I got asked by somebody on social media yesterday, what I think the trajectory is for this South Carolina team. And if they finish the year the way I think they are, we'll see what happens against Clemson. Clemson got that nice win against Pitt. But I think you got to give Shane Beamer a massive amount of credit for keeping the ship steady. And even when it has been rocky, even when it has been going bad, those guys still fight their guts out for him, and they are gaining confidence week in and week out. That's why you're able to make those plays at the end of the Missouri game. And I think you got to give Drinkwitz credit too, man.
Hell yeah.
I mean, Missouri, that shocked me. That result, when I looked up and the SMU Boston College game was close, the South Carolina Missouri game was close, I was like, oh my God, like what's going on in college football? But another huge win for South Carolina. And you want to talk about, Florida garnering momentum for year 4? What Shane Beamer is doing heading into next year with what I think they can get out of the transfer portal, it's about to be a whole hell of a lot of fun in Columbia.
What do you think, Blaine?
Well, if there's anything to look at and point out and make sure people notice this, is the growth of the Norris Sellers. I mean, this kid has gotten better almost week in, week out, and he might be playing the best right now as a quarterback position in the SEC. And you just look, this is a South Carolina team we expected. All right. And I've said this earlier, especially earlier in the year. I think South Carolina had one of the best defenses in the nation. That defense didn't really show up in this game, and you still find a way to win. And that's kudos to Shane Beamer. That's kudos to that crowd. And I tell you what, guys, I know he gets overlooked a lot, but Nicholas Harbor's a problem. Right.
Oh, he's a freak.
He's straight out of Avatar, man. Like it's just crazy to watch a guy that big be able to run that fast with that type of ball skills. But I still go back to it. The names they have on this team. I mean, Rocket Sanders, a dog. You'll probably watch him in the NFL one day. Lenore Sellers growing week in and week out, and they're young. They're young and talented. And Shane Beamer, next year, that team can line up and look like a problem and will be a problem and can play against the best because of the way they built. And they're built defensively up front and be able to run the ball. Lenore Sellers keeps playing like this and keeps growing like this. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in a Heisman watch next year once the season starts.
Well, you just look at the young quarterbacks in the SEC. Nico, Lenoris, DJ Lagway. I mean, I can keep going down the list. I mean, it's just amazing the SEC is able to just rinse and repeat. All right, I want to move on. Let's get out of the league here, David. I think we got to update the Big 12. What happened yesterday? Three really big happenings. Kansas beats undefeated BYU. And guys, I think this means that the Big 12 is only going to get one team in the college football playoff. Not only that, Colorado destroys Utah. Colorado, I think right now is the best team in the Big 12. I don't know how, I know Utah struggled offensively, but what Colorado did to Utah's defense, just watching that game and watching just the versatility of Colorado scoring, a touchdown on special teams, offense, and almost scored one on defense, almost scored 2 on defense, actually, and then Kansas State with an absolutely detrimental loss. But we keep talking about Colorado and BYU. Dude, what Dillingham is doing at Arizona State right now is nothing short of magical because he's going against the grain of typically how he operates offensively. So, David, I want to start with you. Just your overall thoughts on the Big 12 yesterday and what happened, because there was a seismic shift in the Big 12 yesterday.
Yeah, exactly what you said. And we had talked all week about, BYU's undefeated and they're playing a 3-win Kansas team, and yet the spread is under a field goal. Yeah. Why is that the case? And I was telling you guys, hey, Kansas is playing better and better these last couple of weeks. And now that's back-to-back ranked wins for Kansas. And keep in mind that third one, they played 3 ranked teams in a row, a 2-point loss to Kansas State. And now they're going to play another ranked team in a row because now they get Colorado at home. So Kansas trending in the right direction. direction, even though I think by everyone's metrics, it's been a disappointing season for them. But they still have a chance to finish strong. They still have a chance to get bowl eligible. Obviously, I agree with you. I mean, you just look at what this Colorado team is doing. And even when they start bad, they've started bad against Texas Tech, came back and won that football game big. They started bad against Utah. Shedeur Sanders, bad interception over the middle. They come back and they dominate that game. When you look at BYU now, BYU is going to have to go forward and play the Arizona State team that you're talking about with a nice win over Kansas State, and they're still going to have to play Houston. So I don't even think it's a given at this point that we're going to get a Colorado BYU conference championship game, which is what we thought. I think, we still have plenty of games to go. Someone does have to win the conference, and someone does have to make the college football playoff. I just think that when you really dive in here and you look at the standings, that thing could still go any number of different directions right now. And I agree with you that the Big 12 is probably just going to get their champion in the playoff.
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. First thing I want to say this is if Travis Hunter's not leading your Heisman race, I can't help you. All right. I can't help you. It's not even close at this point. What this guy is doing on both sides of the ball is miraculous. And it's time for us to give Colorado and Prime their flowers. And the kudos, what in year 2, okay, Deion Sanders has changed the team so much right now. They look like that. They look like that. And it's not even look, I know Prime gets talked about, but I don't think it's getting talked about enough of what he's doing, not even on the offensive side, but the defensive side of the football.
Well, do you think that's maybe why they're winning? Maybe just everybody's not just sitting there just gassing them up, telling them how amazing they are every time they walk to the cafeteria. I think if I'm Prime, I know he likes the spotlight, and that's great. But this is working.
Yeah,
this recipe is working. And you want to know why? Because you turned back into the hunter. And I'm not talking about Travis, right? Remember last year, Colorado starts out, nobody believed in him. What's Prime going to do? They win a couple games against some okay teams, and now all of a sudden they're supposed to be big and bad, and everybody starts not just hating them, but taking them seriously. The opponents wanted to destroy them. They turned Oregon into the hunter, and they became the hunted with an average team. Well, this year, they somehow morphed back into the hunter. I still feel like they're the hunter. And maybe BYU being undefeated this whole time has been good for them because everybody's just talking about BYU and how incredible of a season they've had. But to David's point, guys, I think this is going to be Colorado and Arizona State playing in the Big 12 championship.
Could be.
I mean, you host BYU, Arizona State hosts BYU, and then goes to an Arizona team that's really struggling. If you win those 2 games, buddy, you're in. You get the tiebreaker over BYU. Well, like that would be, you want to talk about just shocking.
But
here's the matchup. Go ahead, David.
Well, I was just going to say, here's one of the great things for college football fans across the country and really for Colorado and for Deion Sanders. Everyone's opinion of him is not going to matter here. The subjectivity involved with the brand and all that no longer matters. That was 2 weeks ago when they still had to have a couple things happen for them to get in, or could they be 10-2 and they get the benefit of the doubt with an at-large? None of that matters anymore. You're either going to win out and make the conference championship game, or you're not, at which case you're not going to make the college football playoff anyway. And if you win the conference championship game, you have a very good chance to get a first round bye, or at the very least, let's say the Big 12 is the 5th ranked group power conference or conference champion, then you would at least still get to host the first round in Boulder, Colorado, which I don't think would be a bad thing for Deion Sanders in Colorado right now anyway. Wouldn't you love to host a first round playoff game, even if it means you don't get the first round bye, just from a brand standpoint and everything that they do at night out there and from Colorado? So right now, everything is, I think, is an objective metric for Colorado. You're either going to move forward and be the Big 12 champion, which I think they have a good chance of being right now, or you're going to pick up another loss to one of these teams like we talked about, a trending Kansas, because you're no longer going to get the benefit of the doubt after you lost to a bad Nebraska team and your other losses to Kansas State, which is looking worse and worse, right?
Yeah, no, without a doubt, even if Prime is your head coach. All right, I'm going to get to the chat, then move to the Big Ten, the ACC, and we'll get out of here.
All right, let's go to Double O'Neill. What's up, brother? He says, thanks for that win, Kansas. You practically handed Boise State the 4 seed as we snuck by San Jose State.
Dude, that Boise game. Dude, Boise keeps playing with fire too now. Like they started out down 14-0. I mean, that San Jose State game that and Genty, we can talk about Heisman and importance to the team. They literally just made the conscious decision yesterday for the next 3 quarters, we're going to give the ball to Genty as much as possible and see what happens. And guess what? Typically turns out good. The interception at the end made it look like more of a blowout than what it was. Remember, we'll get to the donos at the end as well.
All right, let's go to I Heart Banter. What's up, man? He says, guys, do you think Prime will be at Colorado next year?
Look, we've talked about this till we're blue in the face. I don't know. I appreciate the question. I don't know. But it's not just because of his kids. What if he does make the playoff? What if they do host a game?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's going to get any better than that. Like Ed Colorado, as crazy as that sounds, once Shadur and them leave, I don't know. So there's so many things in play. I mean, if I had to guess, I would say yes. I would think it would be 55-45 yes. But I keep saying, I'm looking at the NFL. If I'm a Colorado fan, I'm not as much worried about a college team grabbing him as I am the NFL. That's just my personal belief.
Let's go to 984 Tony D with the $5 donation. Appreciate it. He says, Colorado is that team. Dion told y'all last year, you better get me now because I'm coming, and we are here.
Yeah, well, they're doing all the things that we said they need to do if you want to win football games, right? Playing complementary football, running the football better, playing better defense, getting off the field on third down. They're doing all those things, and guess now they're winning games. Now they're winning. Yeah. Right? Look at that. It's amazing.
And you know what? Colorado fan, talk your ish. Y'all deserve it. Y'all deserve it. Y'all have earned the right to talk your ish. But I tell you what, the best thing for the Colorado football team is for y'all not to do that. Is to just go do exactly what you did last Sunday. Mm-hmm. Go do exactly what you did last Monday and do it again on Tuesday and Wednesday. The time for the talk, it will arrive. But right now, it's just going out there and chopping.
Mm-hmm. And not panicking when they're down early in games too.
Hell, it may be the best thing for them. It's like the couples, they got to argue just to have makeup. You know what? It's just sometimes you got to start out bad to end good.
Let's go to How Have You Been? He says, people are going to give Travis the Heisman and he's going to look awful in the playoff. You can book it now.
I don't know.
Wrong.
I don't know. I think it's hard for him to look awful at football.
Yeah, I agree.
If this was, a Rubik's Cube, maybe. But I think when it comes to this sport, for a guy that can play really well on all 3 sides, if you can play good on offense, play good on defense, you can play good on special teams too.
I mean, Colorado has literally 2 guys on their team that are going to be top 5 picks. That will be Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter. So look, man, if I'm a Colorado fan, at this point, I feel comfortable lining up against anybody in the country. I really do. I don't think there's a team.
I wonder what the capacity limit up front is, though. There is, Colorado is better. They are way better than what they have been. They are above adequate, in my opinion. But there is also a level to it. I think we can agree. Name one team in the Big 12 that you think is elite on the offensive line or defensive line.
Yeah, you're definitely right. I was thinking this yesterday. What if you line that Colorado team up against Tennessee? What would happen? And I really don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know because if you go back and a lot of people talk about the Nebraska game, right? So if you're looking for a reason to not to keep Colorado out or you're a Colorado hater or something, you'll say, well, they got blown out by a Nebraska team that looks awful, right? Look what happens when they get outside their own conference. But I also think there's something to this team has gotten better week to week, which we have to allow for in college football. One of those programs is trending up and the other one's trending down. What's the max capacity if they face Georgia or Ole Miss? I don't really know at this point. The skill players have always been there. The skill players are going to be able to keep them in games, but they've been playing better defense and they've been running better too.
No, without a doubt.
I was going to committed. What's up? It says, how bad is the Big 12 that Colorado might be the best team in it?
So it's I was having this talk with a coach and buddy of mine, and we were sitting there saying, which conference do we think is better, the ACC or the Big 12? And it's funny because at the top, I think the ACC is better. If it comes to who has the best team or the best 2 teams, I think you can make a pretty good argument for the ACC. But then you go through who has the most depth in the conference. Who has the most teams that are average or slightly above average? I actually think it's the Big 12.
You think so?
Especially now that Louisville lost again to Stanford.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Stanford team.
that's what I was going to say. What if you put Stanford and Cal in the Big 12 right now? I don't know if they'd be at the bottom. Like, they could go beat a lot of those teams in the Big 12 the way they're playing.
Yeah, so that I said ACC, but not by a lot. I think both conferences only get one team in. And we talked about that Louisville loss hurts Clemson too. It makes that loss look worse for Clemson when they lost at home to Louisville. So it's look, the Big 12 is down. I think if it comes to elite teams, but I don't think it's. I think a lot of it has to do with what Colorado is doing, as opposed to everybody else being that bad. I mean, Kansas State's been a letdown, guys. Oklahoma State. Think about the teams: Kansas State let down, Oklahoma State let down, Utah. Cam Rising broken again, let down. All these teams we thought were going to be at the top. I mean, guys, we're sitting here talking about BYU and Arizona State.
Yeah.
And Colorado.
And I love it. I love it.
Oh, I do
It's
too.
great.
I love it. But go ahead, Blaine.
I would say from a guy who picked Arizona State and Syracuse as their dog picks this weekend, I had a great time watching both those games.
I bet you did. All right, I want to get to the Big Ten. Not a ton going on there except Oregon. David, I've watched this game. Thank you, babe. I watched this game. Not David, but also thank you, babe, David. This game to me, I mean, guys, Oregon's down 10-6 at half. Not only that, then they go down 13-6 heading in the fourth quarter, and you're like, oh God, imagine just the chaos that this is going to heap upon. Like, Texas is going to be a number one in the country before the thing's said and done.
Mhm.
But what did you think about Oregon? Dylan Gabriel, 22 of 31, 218, no touchdowns, one interception. I mean, Jordan James did have a $121 and a touch. His longest run was only 14 yards. You didn't have a receiver go over 100 yards. It was just, I mean, Brayton Locke, guys, Wisconsin's quarterback, didn't throw for 100 yards. Was this just one of those games, and we see it all the time, where you just got to survive it?
Yeah.
As you're still the number one team in the country, but you just got to survive it.
I think that's what it was. Now, Oregon did revert back to a couple of the things we saw earlier in the year that are problematic. For instance, red zone turnover, right? Dylan Gabriel with another red zone interception. Haven't seen that for several weeks, even though we saw it at times earlier in the year. So, yes, Oregon did do a couple things there that may be alarming. But, credit to Wisconsin. How you give up 42 points to Iowa and then you allow 16 to Oregon, I think is just indicative of how young men 18 to 22 can be motivated from week to week. Also, Wisconsin coming off of a bye. They're just one of those teams. We just talked about it with Florida in the SEC, how there's too many good football players and there's too many good coaches on a team just to get beat every single game. So who are they going to punch above their weight and surprise? Well, Oregon sort of did that against Oregon, but Wisconsin did that against Oregon, but Oregon still managed to win the game and avoid the upset. So it wasn't pretty at all, but I think it's one you chalk up to, hey, we're going to get everyone's best shot. We're the number one team, not only in the conference, but also in the country. We're going to get everyone's best shot. Just keep the train moving forward.
Well, and Blaine, I think there's something to being able to show the committee, hey, look, we can win a game 52-40 if we got to, but we can also win a game 16-13 because you don't know the way the dice are going to roll in the playoff.
Sure.
You don't. Just like in the NCAA basketball tournament. Sometimes the three isn't falling. Sometimes you don't shoot free throws good. Sometimes all those floaters you were hitting in conference play, they aren't falling, and you got to win with rebounding and defense and in an ugly way. And you score it. You want to talk about taking some balls? You score 6 points in the first quarter. You don't score again in the second. You don't score again in the third. But not only do you drop a double-digit note, a 10-piece in the fourth, you shut them out and only give up 3 points in the second half. That's just
that is why you brought in Dan Lanning. All right. This is the reason you brought Dan to Oregon. Because trust me, I'm used to watching Oregon teams have to score 40 points to beat people. All right. You won this game because now you have a defensive-minded head coach. And sometimes that three is not going to go in. And I'm not worried about Oregon's offense with all the athletes they have over here. But you're going to have scary games like this, all right? And great teams can do what? Win in multiple ways. You needed the defense to show up in this game, and that's the reason you brought Dan Lanning in, because they did. And how funny was it that DJU's brother, right? DJU's brother caught that game-winning interception.
It's funny you talk about Dan Lanning because there was a part of me when they went for that fake field goal and didn't get it on fourth down, when I thought, oh my goodness, is Oregon going to lose another football game because Dan Lanning went for it on an aggressive fourth down, but this time without even the offense being on the field. Luckily, it didn't come back to bite them, but I was thinking that in the time.
Also, just a quick note, Blaine, you saying that about DJU's brother. Yesterday, we're literally got all the games on. We're at Baumhauer's, and they have the Mercer, Alabama game on. And there was a freshman from Mercer that grew up a huge Alabama fan. They showed a picture of his room. It had all Alabama stuff, but he's playing for Mercer. He went to like every Alabama game growing up until he got into high school. And literally, as they're talking about him and showing his parents taking pictures, he makes a one-handed catch for a touchdown in the end zone against Bama. Go watch Mercer's first touchdown. It was the coolest thing. Like his parents, you'd have thought they just won the lottery. Like that's that awesome picture, and it was an incredible catch. Like one hand here, it's just God, college football, just sports are awesome, man. Like
Alabama played yesterday. I thought they were on a bye.
Yeah, they played Mercer, and this freshman kid caught a touchdown pass, but outside of that, it was the ass beating of a lifetime. The rest of the Big Ten, Ohio State started out, David, little sketchy.
I had a minus 27.5. I know.
Yeah, cost me a cover.
Don't worry. If I had taken Northwestern plus 27.5, they would have won by 65. Don't you worry about that, buddy.
Oh, without a doubt, you know how that goes. But no worries. Ohio State was able to do what Ohio State does. Penn State. Boy, Ryan Walters at Purdue. I know he's a young coach. It's year 2. They're trying to figure it out. They need to start turning some corners next year because it's literally starting to look like he doesn't know, and it's defensively. You would think if there was something that he was going to struggle with, it would be the offensive side of the ball. But outside of that in the Big Ten, David, anything that you saw that kind of blew your mind or what?
No, not particularly. Look, I'm really interested in the week coming up here. We're going to have Indiana and the Buckeyes meet up in the Horseshoe. I think that's going to tell us a lot. I'm hoping that it tells us a lot anyway. Obviously, the Buckeyes have a chance to pick up their second loss, which that would really say something to the country. But even if they beat Indiana, how bad is the loss? I think the point differential really matters in this game coming up. I agree with you. I think the Big 12 gets one team in right now. I think the ACC gets one in. It depends on how that finishes up. How does Clemson finish up? Who makes the ACC championship game? Notre Dame playing better and better, and they're going to have a big one coming up against Army. So is it going to be a one Big 12, one ACC, Notre Dame plus the group of 5, and then the SEC Big 10 sort of gets split down the middle and each gets 4 in? I think that was one of the scenarios I had preseason. Or is it going to be a thing where Notre Dame falters again, they're out of it, but the ACC and Big 12 still get one team in, and then maybe that 5th SEC team can get in the playoff?
It's going to be interesting as hell, that's for sure. All right, I'm going to get to the ACC, then we're going to get to the chats and all the donos and get to you guys. Quickly, just run down Notre Dame handle business. That plus 22 Virginia held, though. Woo! Lost by 21. Thank you, Virginia, Calandri, and the boys. And hey, look, guys, SMU, think we're one win away. We're one win away, and I will be throwing a personal party at my house if you guys want to come over if SMU makes the ACC championship game. And I'm just going to do nothing. You know what I need to do? I need to read all the comments under the post on X when I picked SMU to win it. I should do it like at a podium with like a spotlight with just darkness around me.
Yeah.
Stanford, as we said, beat Louisville. Syracuse, shout out our boy Cuse Mode. Fran Brown, 7-3, 4-3 in the ACC in year 1. We talked about Dillingham not getting enough love. He's not getting enough love. And guys, they could be even better. That record could be even better when you look at kind of the way that Kyle McCord played at home against Stanford, who seems to be just picking teams off left and right every now and then. And then Clemson, guys, in a game yesterday where, God, it felt like Clemson dominated that whole game until the fourth quarter, and Holstein and Pitt were able to fight back. But
not Holstein. Holstein was out.
Or not Holstein. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh was able to fight back. But Cade Klubnik, that 50-yard touchdown run on that last drive, I tell you, man, he's kind of got that. He's sneaky athletic, right? Like you don't think he's gonna make you miss. It's like watching one of these white guys that plays for Duke basketball. You're like, oh, he can't drive it, and then all of a sudden he drives it and finishes the rack. You're like, God, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that was a heck of a touchdown run he had. And Pitt's backup quarterback who came in for Holstein, I thought he played really well, especially in the second half, giving them some go-ahead touchdowns. Big kid, man, he did some good things. Also, USC making the quarterback switch. They had a nice win over Nebraska. The under hit on that one, which was good, but I still had Nebraska +9 on my lean, so that hit as well.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I thought the Maivia kid came in and did a pretty good job.
You look good, man.
Yeah,
you look good.
That's a weird situation going on at USC.
Yeah.
Just weird. All right, Blaine.
All right, y'all ready for these donations?
Do it.
Let's get a $5 donation from BM. What's up, man? Fire the Pitt O-line coaching staff into the sun. 3 procedural penalties. Should have been 4 in a row from the one. Now a 50-yard QB draw.
Well, also, did y'all see the way that Louisville-Stanford game ended? Did y'all?
I didn't see the end of it.
Listen to this, David. Listen to this sequence. Louisville's got the ball with 25 seconds. It's a tie game at midfield. All right. They run 4 plays. There's 5 seconds left to go in the game. They throw in an incomplete pass on 4th down at like the Stanford 40, somewhere around there. So close to midfield, but not close enough to kick a field goal. Stanford just runs like a now screen to run out the clock. Guy gets tackled out of bounds. The Louisville player that tackles him out of bounds gets up and punches the Stanford player.
No.
So it's a 15-yard penalty that's added on to a 5-yard gain that's going to make it like a 57-yard field goal. And there's no time left on the clock. So it's just like an untimed play. Louisville jumps off sides trying to block the kick. Jumps offside trying to block the kick. So that's another 5 yards. That scoops it up. It goes from a 57-yarder to a 52-yarder. And oh boy, bangs the 52-yarder to beat Louisville.
Wait, and it was tied before that?
It was tied before that, David.
Louisville so it was tied, and Louisville had a personal foul penalty and an offside penalty to move them in for a game-winning field goal.
You blew it.
Yes.
That's bad, man.
You blew it.
Dude, I've never seen it like that before. The only one I've seen as bad as that is when oh boy from Florida threw the shoe.
Yeah, goddamn unfired. All right, let's go to $5 donation from Jake Stewart. What's up, dude? Since I guess K-State forgot how to play football for 3 quarters. Not technically out of the Big 12 race, but might as well be.
Dude,
you know what would make me
sick? Up. You know what would make me sick if I was a Kansas State fan? Is that this was the year for y'all to really take the Big 12.
Yeah.
Like the Big 12 around you was down. Avery Johnson's going to get his shot. There's a vacuum at the top of the Big 12. And Kansas State could have this year had one of their biggest opportunities to go and take that mantle that was left when Texas and Oklahoma left. But you didn't do it. So I'm telling you, the Big 12, it ain't always going to be like this. Like we're going to get back to the point where it's like, oh, damn, like the Big 12's got a couple teams that can really rock you. So if you're a Kansas State fan, man, it just, you had an opportunity to strike when the gates were down and you didn't do it.
Yeah, now you got Cincinnati and at Iowa State. The problem is all 3 of your losses are conference losses. So even if Colorado loses another one, it wouldn't be enough to trigger the head-to-head. I mean, BYU would have to lose. I mean, I guess Colorado would have to lose both their games, and that would trigger the head-to-head.
BYU would have to lose both their games, right?
BYU lose both of their games, but then they still have the head-to-head over you. So I don't know.
Who knows?
Well, that's why Arizona State beating you kills you.
I know.
Let's go to a $10 donation from Nick. Appreciate it, Nick. Says, no such thing as a bad win, especially when there is chaos everywhere. Oregon had 8 straight conference games with no byes, with past 2 games with teams off a bye, and 11-0. Wait till Tez and Birch are back. Keep sleeping on the Ducks. Buddy, I don't think anybody's sleeping on Oregon.
No, we've had y'all ranked number 1 for a while. I mean, we've talked about y'all being probably the only or the most complete team.
And that was a road game against Wisconsin yesterday, too.
For sure.
Let's get a $2 donation from Crane & Co. Memes. What's up, man? He says, what a beautiful day. Good old Rocky Flop, RTR.
Yeah, that I got a couple Bama buddies that I'm like, who do you root for in this game?
Yeah.
And they're just like the Meteor. Like, no, just it's he said, I just root for the literally one of them, and this is just how vindictive some of my buddies are, said, I just want the loss to like happen in the most tragic fashion. Like whoever loses, I want it to have like in a way that just hurts the most.
Well, again, the answer to that question is, well, what are your goals? Are you trying to play in the SEC championship? Because if you are, you needed Georgia to beat Tennessee to sort of open up a pathway for that to happen. Or did you want to just shore up a spot in the college football playoff? Then you needed Georgia to have a third loss.
That's what my wife wanted. Reed wanted Georgia to lose, to be just out of the playoffs. She's just, Alabama fans have won so much. Like, they're not afraid to skip the steak to go straight to dessert.
Well, look. Georgia could be 6-6, and Kirby's going to be out there saying they should be in the national championship.
Oh, with that,
you know that Vegas would have us favored. I don't care if we're 6-6.
That's why I don't mind Kirby's comments after the game. I think the playoff committee is a joke. And if they're going to listen to anybody, hopefully it'd be Kirby Smart.
There's 4 automatic spots. Win your conference. I don't see him yelling at Greg Sankey about them expanding the conference, eliminating divisions, and only having 9 conference games instead 8 instead of 9 in a year. That's what's hurting us right now. We should have an Alabama Ole Miss head-to-head to go off of. We should have a Texas Tennessee head-to-head, but we don't have that because you only play 8 games and you expanded the conference and you eliminated divisions. Now we're going to have to flip a coin at a gas station.
Yeah, it's like watching Texas A&M murder New Mexico State. It's November. I'm not having fun. Okay, I shouldn't be watching this game. Okay, this is stupid. Let's go to a $5 donation from Justin. Thank you, Justin. Good morning, fellas. Do you think Ryan Walters gets fired? If so, could you see him coming to Happy Valley?
What do you think, Jake?
Ooh, I don't think they're going to fire him this year. I don't think it's going to be this year. I think it would be next year. And whoever, like, you talk about getting a good DC. And look, I think Ryan can still, and you know, he may turn it around. I don't know. I'm rooting for him. That's for sure. But, you know, sometimes it takes that first big job as a head coach, you getting your teeth kicked in to realize what you got to do once you get your next chance. I mean, how many times, guys, have we seen, you know, young guys get jobs that not work out, then they go be a coordinator again, then that next job they get, they're so much more prepared and they kind of understand what they're getting into that they have success. Look, if you know, you're sitting here wondering if Ryan Walters is going to be your DC next year, I don't think he's going to be gone from Purdue. But the year after this, right after year 3, I think that would be the year.
All right, let's go to a $20 donation from Trip. Appreciate it, Trip. You put a first donation, then you put another one, what the first one was supposed to say. So I'm going to go to read the second one. It says, Blaine, my first super chat is supposed to say, how about my dogs? Defense pitched a shutout in the second half, and Carson Beck got his swag back after scrambling and hitting that safety. Ran over that safety. She don't want a little pup. She wants them big dogs.
Yeah. Hey, can I also can I say this as well? It's amazing. Part of me thinks Mike Bobo listens to the show. And Mike, I'm not asking you to come out and say you listen to it. I'm not asking you to even text your buddies and say, oh no, they found out I'm listening to it. But you know what I thought was amazing watching that Georgia game? You know what happened after about the second drive? After they'd get that first down? What did you start to see?
Little tempo.
Lollipop.
When did Tennessee jump off sides? And why did they jump off sides in that free play?
Yeah.
A little bit of tempo. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to take credit for the offensive performance. I'll take a little bit of credit. I'm just saying. It's amazing when the stuff started to get hot, you started to see Georgia get that first down, that drive starter, and rock and roll. Maybe it's something you keep doing. I don't know, but that'll cost you. That's going to be $7,500 to the University of Georgia.
Jake's holding up the tip thing with his phone.
Yeah.
22%.
Yeah, 22%. Exactly. Let's go to a $5 donation from Devin Tiabu. What's up, man? I know I said your last name wrong, but trust me, I don't care.
Thibodeau, probably.
Yeah, it says, boys, I'll be calling in for the first time tomorrow. Can't wait. Dillingham said it best. No better place to be right now. Tempe is alive and the Valley is activated.
I love that guy, man.
Can I? Why is game day not going to Tempe? Why are we going to Ohio State again? Why you've been there a million times, dude?
Did they already announce that?
Yeah, I saw it this morning. Go to Tempe. Go, man. Go. You want to talk about a party? Arizona State. It's basically turning into a cartel.
Literally. Let's go to a $5 donation from Matt. Appreciate it, Matt. It's Brian Kelly. If Brian Kelly is fired, who gets the job realistically? Also, BK has failed miserably. Oregon and Miles won chips. They are bad. Orgeron and Miles won chips, and they are bad coaches.
Brian Kelly's not getting fired this year. But let's run this experiment out. Cone, if you're at LSU, if you're Woodward and you fire Brian Kelly, you have enough money, whatever. You fire Brian Kelly. Who are you going to get? Who do you go get?
You can't go the coordinator route. You've got to go get somebody who already is a proven head coach right now. Cignetti just signed his extension with Indiana. And I think Lane Kiffin has proven he's staying where he's going to be. You're not going to steal Steve Sarkisian away from Texas. So I don't know, man. You'd have to put a heck of a list together. I don't think it's going to happen. The question is, how bad would it have to be next year for LSU, for Brian Kelly, for them to really trigger that buyout?
Yeah. Blaine, who are you going to get?
That's tough. Cignetti just signed because that would be the first guy I'm trying to go get. Look, if you say you can't go the coordinator route, then we're in trouble. If it's me, man, no, I'm going to look at T-Will at Arkansas.
I don't think you could do it.
I'm going to look at T-Will. I'm sick of my defense sucking.
You can't fire the winningest coach in Notre Dame history when he didn't work out and go the coordinator route. It's just not going to – the LSU fan base.
I get it, but congrats to Notre Dame for all those wins.
You want to know what I do?
Wins on this side?
Yeah, you want to know what I do?
That'd be great.
Yeah, here's what I do. Hey, Terry, is Nick interested in coming back home?
That ain't happening.
Is he interested in coming back home? Oh, he's not. He's not. Okay, hold on. I got to make another call.
Urban Meyer.
Urban.
Yeah, there you go.
Urban. What is up, man? Look. I know Nick's been here. And then if that doesn't work, I got one more call to make.
John Gruden.
We won't hire.
Portnoy, listen, I'm going to need one of your
employees. Hey, Gruden, listen. I heard you were interested in the Tennessee job at one point. We don't care anything about your Barstool contract. Come to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We won't hire T-Will, but we'll hire a guy who hit a murderer on his team. Hey, whatever, right?
What? Did you see him play tight end?
I'm sorry. I thought they were trying to win football games. I didn't know.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to win.
I didn't say I'd hire. I thought we were going by the standards LSU has set for themselves.
Take the moral ground.
Yeah, it's real funny.
Blaine trying to take the moral ground is hilarious to me. In just so many different aspects.
All right, let's go to a $10 donation from the New Life. What's up, man? Indiana went 11-0 on a bye week, extending Cignetti to 2032, $8 million a year with a $1 million retention incentives. The Cignetti leaving narrative is pretty much dead. Yeah,
well, one thing I was thinking when I heard this yesterday was, remember how we talked about ADs panicking, oh God, we're gonna lose this guy, the Mel Tucker thing, right? Mm-hmm. At Michigan State, but this don't feel like that to me. Because Cignetti's won everywhere he's went, and Indiana has no tradition of winning, like Michigan State does, right? Right, David?
I just feel like if you're Indiana, you struck gold, so you might as well protect that investment as much as possible. It's not like a situation where it's Penn State or someone panicking because you had one good season. I agree with you.
Chat just reminded me of this, and I do think Nate Oates would be a great fit at LSU. The guy just knows how to win. And another interesting thing here, I think, what about Rhett Lashley?
Win the ACC.
I think Rhett's a really good coach. I don't think LSU fans would be excited about that. I really don't.
All right, let's go to $2 donation from Kendrick Gibson. What's up, man? He says BYU doing BYU things, fellas.
Well, guys, we said this about Miami, and we had been saying it about BYU. If you keep putting your hand close to the stove, eventually it's going to touch, and it's going to burn. And so Miami got burned against Georgia Tech. BYU it's like Icarus. You flew too close to the sun, man, and your wings melted off. All right, but if you're BYU, look, you still control your own destiny, right? You went out. It's just the question now becomes, do you have to win your conference championship game? And I think we all agree, yes.
All right, let's go to a $2 donation, last donation of the day. If y'all donated today, you guys really appreciate it. From TJ, says, Jake, are you wearing a Georgia Tech shirt? You're dead to me.
That was from Jeff Collins, wasn't it?
This was a gift from our friend Jeff Collins when he was like, look, I've got no allegiance to Georgia Tech, bro. I got a Titans hat on and a Georgia Tech sweatshirt. Where I plant my flag. So, it's one of the most comfortable sweatshirts that I own. And we got a lot of Georgia Tech stuff, actually. So there it is, TJ.
Ooh, Did I miss a donation? I don't think I did. I might have. All right. We got one more. I guess I missed from Cranico Means. $5 donation singing nah, 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 nah. Hey, hey, hey. Goodbye to an empty out Tiger Stadium at the beginning of the fourth quarter. My favorite Bama moments since 2020.
He's having the time of his life. But
All right,
man, first
donations, guys.
yeah, thanks everybody for being in here. Again, hit that subscribe button. We got a huge week, guys, coming up. We're barreling toward, the conference championship, and then the playoff this season has flown by. Any parting thoughts? Diesel, I'll start with you.
No, y'all travel safely, man. We're going to be heading back to Nashville this afternoon.
All right, man. Y'all too. Tell the kiddies to say hello.
I got a couple things here. One, the Mike Tyson Jake Paul was scripted. That was a scripted fight. It was blatantly obvious. Go watch Mike train. And John Jones is an absolute problem. The scariest man on the planet.
Okay, so hold on. I want to talk about the Tyson thing for a second. So you're saying that it was scripted because Tyson trained really hard, but then was like throwing the fight in the ring?
The way Tyson trained, the way he looked, the way he moved.
Training it and fighting, though. Training it and fighting. I can get on board. I don't want to use the term scripted. Here's what my takeaway was after watching the fight. And it reminded me a little bit of Mayweather-Pacquiao from a few years ago when we didn't get them in their prime, but they scheduled that fight when Pacquiao was older. And I'm sitting there watching it like, why aren't they throwing at each other? Why isn't Pacquiao throwing punches? It's because you saw two guys who were older who wanted to get a payday, which is why I've always said, let's let the winner get the lion's share, and then you'll see guys actually fight. What it looked like to me was Tyson was old. Like Tyson actually looked his age. And I think you had two guys go in there and say, look, if Jake Paul knocks out Mike Tyson, which I think that he could do, he could knock him out, it's going to be very bad for his legacy. We don't want to have that happen. Let's go the distance in this fight and let's everybody get paid. And Tyson on the flip side of that wasn't able to knock out Jake Paul.
Okay, that feels scripted to me then.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying I don't necessarily think you're wrong with that saying, but I don't think it was from the Tyson side not going in and fighting as hard as he
thinks it could have been scripted. It's just a different genre than what you think.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, my thing looking at it is you fought a 60-year-old man.
Yeah, he looked it too.
You fought a 60-year-old man.
It's sad, dude. It's sad.
Well, the Jake Paul, Joe Biden, Steve Gleason cage match is going to do numbers.
Because of what Mike Tyson was, right?
I know.
It's sad to see him like that. He should have never agreed to this stupid fight in the first place because it's going to diminish everything he's built from being a fighter.
I don't know because, look, if Pete Rose if 75-year-old Pete Rose went and struck out against Shohei Ohtani, I don't think it diminished how good of a hitter he was in his prime. It's just you beat up an old ass Mike Tyson.
Yeah, I think
I don't think anybody's going to look back and be like, man, Mike Tyson got knocked out by Jake Paul, and then just forget he was 60.
No.
Yeah, but I do think it would have been worse had he gotten knocked out, which he didn't. And I do think, to Blaine's point, I think you had a couple guys go in there and agree, like, hey, Mike Tyson's legacy can't take a hit of getting knocked out by Jake Paul. Let's just go in there, go the distance. Let's all make some money. Which one is that frustrating? Yes. Was it a good fight? Absolutely not. But I'm still glad they put it on for a few reasons. One, didn't have to pay pay-per-view. Right. It was on Netflix. We all got to, I watched the entire fight, stayed up till midnight with my family. I'm glad they put that on. And two, we did get some very good undercard fights.
My Netflix.
That girl fight was
I hate watching females fight. And that was one of the best fights I've ever seen.
Doesn't it do something to you?
Yes, and it should. If you're a man, you shouldn't want to watch women beat up on each other. But if they're going to do it in the undercard right before the Tyson fight, then can we at least get a good fight? And we did. Those two girls sat in there and exchanged with each other for 10 straight rounds, and it was awesome.
Netflix completely dropped the ball on this. Congratulations, David, if you got to watch the fight. Mine was buffering more than Prime's team, the Colorado Buffaloes. I could barely watch it.
Was this a tryout for NFL games?
Why was Mike Tyson's ass out?
What is going on there?
What are we doing, dude?
It's like, why? Like, you're not going to let the girls wear that, but Mike Tyson is?
It was like every moment of it was planned to get a meme reaction out of the internet.
All right, quickly $5 donation from Kevin. He says, hey, guys, if LSU was in the Big Ten this year, what place do you think they would finish in the Big Ten?
LSU, I think LSU would lose to Penn State. I think LSU would lose to the Buckeyes. I think LSU would lose to Oregon. I don't know about Indiana. I mean, we're going to find out more about Indiana.
I'd say fourth. I'd say fourth.
I think LSU
possibly
would beat
fifth, possibly third.
LSU would beat Michigan. LSU would probably beat Washington, USC.
Yeah. That sounds about right. But all right, man, we appreciate y'all. Safe travels, Dave. Blaine, I'll see you here in a little bit, but y'all be good. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check us out live tomorrow. Huge week. All right, lock your ass in. Let's get ready to go. Let's break it down. Let's put liquid paper on a B and see what happens. But until then, we're gone.